Hey everybody. I was sitting at work today. Obviously, as you can see, I'm back in the closet. One thing I did want to point out to you real quick. You see that rat's nest? That is how a rack should not look. That is sloppy cabling. That's what happens when you let the end users run in and plug stuff in wherever the hell they want because they need to get their computer up immediately. That's sloppy, it's horrible, and anybody who's in IT or works in a server room knows just how disgusting it is. And I've got to deal with that on a daily basis. When I've got to go and reroute cables, or I've got to hook up a new, a new port, trying to trace a line from one side of the board to the other, it's disgusting. But that is not the point of this particular video. First, I want to draw your attention to the link that I'm putting on the side here. It is a link to the census board, www.census.gov. It is the government site specifically for taking a census of the populace of the United States, and I'm not sure if it's all over the world, but I'm pretty sure it's the United States. I did a search specifically for the purpose. I wanted to find out exactly how many people in the United States were Catholic, Christian, whatever, version of that particular faith that they follow. The reason why that is because of something that I read in the newspaper today that I wanted to bring up to everybody. This is something I've been wanting to talk about for a while, but I never did because by the time I actually got a chance to sit down in front of my system and start recording, I had lost my momentum or my drive to talk about it. But since I'm at work, I have a few minutes, and I have this MacBook, I thought I would do it. Specifically, I wanted to talk about same-sex marriage. Now, the reason why I mentioned the link in the side here in the census board was because of the fact that I've had many conversations with people about the idea of having a religious leader, somebody in office who is a Catholic or a Protestant or somebody of a religious tint, and why I always found a problem with that. I've never been able to articulate specifically why it bothered me. It always did. And I could never effectively argue that point because I didn't have numbers. I didn't have proof that would support my statement. It was all opinion-based. It was all emotive. And that's not an effective way to communicate an idea or to debate a concept. But if you look at the link and you go to the one that specifically talks about Catholic, Christian, religious identified people in the United States, you'll see that 47 point some odd % of people in America today follow that faith. Now that means the other 53, 52 point something % are also other religions or are not Catholic. The reason why this point is relevant is because of the fact that that shows that someone who goes into office that talks to God is not a representative of the majority of the United States of America. That is one of the main reasons why I have a problem. Our leader is supposed to have the idea of the majority of the United States and the benefit of the majority of the United States in mind when making decisions. Telling people that God told you to do this or God told you to do that, not the majority. You're Catholic, you're Christian, 47%, not the majority, get the fuck out of office. Now, if it was a Jew in office that was saying that, my argument would still stand. A Muslim would stand in office and say, my argument would still stand. The point is, there is no majority when it comes to religion in the United States. Therefore, you should not be making decisions for the country as a whole based on your religion. Plain and simple. If a Wiccan or a pagan or a Satanist or any other religious group were to have someone in office, I'd be making the exact same claim. You do not represent the entire United States or the majority of the United States. Therefore, you should not be using that as part of your process. You're not speaking for the larger group. Period. But that's only part of what I wanted to talk about. The other part that I wanted to talk about was brought on by something that I read in the newspaper today. One of the mayors of San Francisco, the Bay Area, one of the mayors of the Bay Area is having problems with the idea of same-sex marriage. The article was talking about how groups in the Bay Area were bothered by this particular thing because he's not moving with the times. I've always had an issue with people who take issue with same-sex marriage. The reason why is because nobody that I've ever dealt with or anything I've ever read has put forth an argument or put forth any sort of statement that wasn't religious tinted. Their argument or their definition of why same-sex marriage is wrong always has a religious spin to it. There's no scientific, there's no socioeconomic reference. It's always a religious-based one. Anything that they use always ends up going straight to fucking religion every goddamn time. So here's something I wanted to bring up to make a point. The religious groups say, specifically, that homosexuality is a choice. It is a choice of a lifestyle. That people aren't born homosexual, that as they go through life, they decide that they want to choose this deviant behavior as the process that they want to live by. That homosexuals and lesbians are not born that way. They decide one day, I think I'm going to go against the norm and I'm going to be disgusting, or whatever it is that these religious nut jobs always think is the explanation. And that's the definition they give. Oh, well, you're not really gay. You just made that choice. So I'm going to use their frame of reference here, their process of logic, to point something out real quick. I have to admit that there is no conclusive scientific evidence that shows that people are born gay. There isn't. There's none. There are studies that give us reason to believe. There are scientific processes that have led us to see that this is a truth, but we don't have any solid scientific proof. The fact that religious people are using science in this way to support their argument, but every other time when science is brought up, they debunk it because it's faith. So I think right there that anybody that's religious that tries to use science to make a point should automatically be disqualified and slapped. You're a fucking hypocrite the minute you mention science to make your point. But anyway, I'm getting off topic here. Okay, so there are no scientific studies that prove definitively that homosexuality is inherent. There are no scientific studies, and there never will be, ever, ever, ever. There will never, ever be a scientific study that proves that you're born Christian, that proves that you're born Catholic, that proves that you're born connected to your fucking God. Isn't that crazy? So what we're basically dealing with here is that we've got a bunch of people that have chosen to follow Christ, that have chosen to believe in God, that have chosen to follow their religion. So since we're being specific about not allowing somebody because of a choice they made, I think that we need to make this an all-encompassing process. If you're getting married and you're Christian, you shouldn't get married because it's a choice. Because you know what? There are some practices in the Christian faith that are disgusting and abhorrent and foul and against the nature of man. But I noticed that you guys aren't throwing rocks and starting to burn people at the stake over that. It's funny, isn't it? So yeah, the next time you point a finger at the homosexual and say, oh, it's a choice, remember, your dumbass chose to follow your God too. You're no better than them. Yeah.